Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're setting sail into the world of luxury wine. Specifically, we're going to navigate the vast holdings of LVMH.
Right. Louis Vuitton Moët Hennessy. It's a name everyone knows in luxury, but their wine and spirit side, Moët Hennessy, is just massive. Essential stuff for sommeliers, really.
Absolutely. If you're in the wine world, you kind of have to understand these guys. We're talking about, what, 29 different maisons, all under this one umbrella.
Exactly. And Moët Hennessy itself, that merger happened back in '71. Then they became part of the bigger LVMH group in 1987. It's a powerhouse.
A powerhouse is right. And the names. I mean, even just rattling off a few. You've got Moët Chandon, Veuve Clicquot, Dom Perignon, Ruinart, Krug, the Champagne Titans.
Mm-hmm. And that's just scratching the surface. Then you have legendary estates like Château de Chem, Château Cheval Blanc.
Oh, yeah. Plus newer, really interesting additions like Colgan Cellars, Joseph Phelps, and Napa.
And the big Provence players now, too. Château d'Esclans, Minimedi.
Whispering Angel territory.
Right. And let's not forget El Yun in China, which is pretty unique.
Totally unique. So today's deep dive will cover the history, where things stand now, including some recent shifts in the market.
Yeah, the numbers have been interesting lately.
We'll look at their strategy, the focus on excellence, innovation, and why all this actually matters for you listening, whether you're pouring these wines or just enjoying them.
Understanding the parts helps appreciate the whole picture, I think. Each brand has its own story.
Okay, let's dive into those historical roots then. Some of these houses go way, way back. Moët and Chandon, for instance, 1743.
Epernay. And yeah, the stories connect them to Dom Perignon, even Napoleon. It adds to the whole mystique.
It really does. What about Hennessy? That's another cornerstone.
Well, Hennessy started in Cognac, 1765. Richard Hennessy, an Irishman, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And their XO, when that came out in 1870, it basically defined luxury cognac, set a benchmark.
And Veuve Clicquot, I always find her story fascinating. The widow Clicquot.
Barbara Clicquot, yeah. Founded 1772. She was incredible. Took over the business, navigated wars, and was a real innovator.
The riddling rack, right? For getting the champagne clear.
Exactly. Seems simple now, but it was revolutionary. And she pioneered rosé champagne way back in 1818. Plus, that yellow label is just
Instantly recognizable.
iconic.
It really is.
Her work boosted the whole region.
Yeah.
Then you've got Krug, 1843. Joseph Krug's whole philosophy was different.
How so?
He wanted the best possible champagne every single year, regardless of vintage variations. So no waiting for a good year.
Ah, okay. So that led to the Grand Cuvée.
Precisely. Blending, sometimes over 120 different wines from multiple years. It's all about that consistent, complex style. That pursuit of perfection is kind of key to many of these top houses.
Definitely. And Château de Chem, 1593, that's incredible longevity.
In Sauternes, LVMH bought them in '99. It's the benchmark for sweet wine, savored by historical figures for centuries. It's history in a bottle.
So how did they all end up together? You mentioned Moët Hennessy in 71.
Right, that brought champagne and cognac together. Then Bernard Arnault formed LVMH in 1987. He saw these brands not just as businesses, but as cultural assets, treasures even.
And started acquiring more key pieces.
Yeah, strategic ones. Cheval Blanc in '98, Domaine Lambray in Burgundy in '96, more recently Colgan and Napa in 2017. Building this portfolio of excellence.
And it wasn't just collecting trophies, right? There was real innovation happening early on.
Oh, absolutely. Veuve's riddling rack and rosé, Moët creating Dom Perignon as a vintage-only prestige cuvée in 1921. That was a huge step.
Defining that top tier.
Exactly. And Hennessy's blending mastery.
Yeah.
Achieving that consistency and complexity, that built their global reputation.
You hear anecdotes, too, like Moët being popular in Russia, inspiring Pushkin.
Yeah. Or Hennessy becoming a status symbol in Qing Dynasty China. It shows their early global reach and, frankly, savvy marketing.
Okay, so that gives us the historical context. Fast forward to now, 2023, 2024. Things look a bit different market-wise.
They do. The latest financials for 2024 showed an 11% drop in revenue for the wine and spirits division, down to about $5.86 billion.
Oof. From $6.6 billion the year before.
Yeah. And operating profit took a bigger hit, down almost 36% to $1.36 billion.
Wow. What's behind that?
Well, several things seem to be playing a role. There's the expected normalization after the huge demand spike we saw post-COVID. Things are settling down.
Right. People aren't stocking up quite the same way.
Exactly. Plus, there's been weaker demand in China, which is a really key market for luxury goods, including cognac. and exchange rates haven't helped either.
It's interesting, though, because I saw overall wine and sparkling volume actually went up slightly, like 0.3%.
It did, yeah, to about 61.3 million bottles.
Yeah.
But, and this is key, champagne shipments specifically were down quite a bit in the first half of 2024, from over 30 million bottles to around 25.6 million.
Okay, so the volume increase maybe came from still wines or other sparkling.
Potentially, yeah. But despite that champagne dip, LVMH still holds a massive 22% market share of all champagne appellation shipments. That's huge.
Still the dominant player by far.
No question. But the headwinds are there. The cognac slowdown, Hennessy specifically in China and the U.S., that's a big factor. And they've had some tough harvests in Champagne due to weather.
Yeah, climate change is impacting everyone. But are there bright spots, areas that are growing?
Definitely. Provence Rosé seems to be doing really well for them. With Château d'Esclans and Minuti now in the fold.
Makes sense. Rosé is still booming.
It is.
Yeah.
And Napa Valley seems strong too, especially with the Joseph Phelps acquisition bedding in. So it shows they're diversifying, not putting all their eggs in one basket.
That seems smart. And are they still pushing innovation?
Oh, absolutely. That seems core to their strategy. Look at Veuve Clicquot's sustainable packaging, using grape-based leather with Stella McCartney. That's pretty cutting edge.
Wow, grape leather. Okay.
Yeah. And new launches, like Moët's 288th anniversary bottle, keep things fresh, plus investing in retail, like the big Hennessy store in Shanghai, to connect directly with consumers.
And the sustainability angle seems serious too, the Life 360 program.
It does. They reported 31% recycled materials in 2024. That's a concrete number. It reflects a wider industry push, but also, consumer expectations.
Yeah, people care more about that now.
They do. Although we should also mention the news from May 2025 about Moët Hennessy planning job cuts.
Oh, right. How many?
Around 1,200, which is about 13% of their workforce. They cited falling sales and rising costs. It seems like a move to refocus on the really top-performing brands.
That's tough news, but it underlines the pressures, even for a giant like LVMH. Okay, so let's maybe run through the current wine portfolio as of 2025. It's just extensive.
It really is. Let's start with Champagne again. You have Moët Chandon, the biggest vineyard owner there, Brut Imperial, Dom Perignon.
The benchmarks.
Right. Veuve Clicquot, Yellow Label, Rosé Pioneer, pushing sustainability, Krug, all about those multi-vintage blends, Grand Cuvée, Côte de Mesnil.
That single vineyard, amazing.
Ruinart, the oldest house, Chardonnay-focused, Blanc de Blancs, very chic packaging too, and Mercier, maybe a bit more accessible.
Yeah, a different style. And Dom Perignon itself, technically separate, vintage only.
The pinnacle. Okay, moving out of Champagne, Château d'Yquem in Sauternes, the king of sweet wines.
Unquestionably.
Château Cheval Blanc in Saint-Emilion, that legendary Merlot Cab Franc blend.
Iconic.
Then Burgundy, Clos de Lambray, Grand Cru Pinot Noir, very prestigious.
Right. Then Napa.
Lots happening there. Colgan Cellars, a real cult Cabernet and Syrah producer. Newton Vineyard, known for unfiltered Chardonnay and Cab. And Joseph Phelps, famous for Insignia.
So 3 major Napa players now.
Yeah, significant investment there. Then heading down under, Cloudy Bay in New Zealand.
Sauvignon Blanc icon.
The benchmark, really. And Pinot Noir, too. Australia, you've got Cape Mentel and Margaret River Great Cab and Chardonnay and Mata Dam and Eden Valley, known for Chardonnay and Pinot.
Okay, spanning the globe.
We're not done yet. Argentina. Terrazas de los Andes in Mendoza. High-altitude Malbec and Cab.
Right, Provence.
Château d'Esclans, Whispering Angels Home and Minuti. Huge in rosé.
Definitely leaders in that category.
Then Ao Yun in Yunnan, China. High-altitude Cab, really pushing boundaries.
That's fascinating.
And the Chandon brand, that's their global sparkling arm estates in Argentina, Australia, Brazil, California, China, India, making quality bubbles more accessible worldwide.
Wow. Anywhere else?
Domaine des Étangs in Chablis for that crisp Chardonnay style.
Yeah.
I think that covers the main wineries, 21 of them.
That's quite a list. And like you said, each with its own identity, but part of this larger group. The scale of Moët's vineyards, the hand-picking at Yquem, those details matter.
They absolutely do. And for sommeliers, knowing those details, being able to tell those stories, that elevates the experience for the guest. It's not just pouring a famous name.
Totally agree. So looking ahead, what's on the horizon? What trends are shaping their future?
Well, I think we'll see continued focus on maybe New World expansion. California seems key, but maybe Chile, South Africa too. Diversification.
And emerging markets.
Definitely. Places like India, Nigeria, where there's growing wealth and interest in luxury, sustainability will only get bigger too.
You mentioned the Life 360 goals for 2030.
Right. Expect more organic practices, more circular economy stuff like that grape leather packaging.
Yeah.
Consumers are demanding it, and frankly, the climate demands it.
What about the no alcohol trend? They invested in French Bloom, right?
They did. It's a big question. Could we see like a zero-proof Dom Perignon someday? Maybe not DP,
Hmm.
but perhaps non-alcoholic versions from other brands. It's a space to watch.
Interesting. And technology.
Oh, yeah. Digital innovation is key. Think AR tastings, maybe NFTs for special bottles, AI helping with blending or predicting trends, definitely more sophisticated e-commerce.
And that focus on experiential luxury.
Huge. The Hennessy store, Moët opening up Château de Saran, Veuve's travel experiences. It's about creating memories and deep brand connection, not just selling a product.
So building loyalty beyond the bottle.
Exactly. China remains crucial too. How do they navigate that market, potentially bounce back? And climate resilience is massive vineyard choices, new tech, research. They have to adapt.
It really sounds like that Bernard Arnault quote about combining heritage with innovation is their core playbook, balancing tradition with the future.
Precisely. And managing that tricky balance between making some brands feel accessible while keeping the top tier super exclusive and desirable. It's a constant juggling act.
Maintaining that luxury cachet.
Cultural partnerships, collaborations, it all feeds into that.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, we've traced the history, looked at the current market dynamics, challenges included, mapped out that incredible portfolio, and peered into the future strategies.
And hopefully, for you listening, whether you're a somm or just love wine, understanding this giant gives you context. Knowing the stories behind Moët, Krug, Yequim, Phelps, appreciating the innovation, being aware of the market, it all adds depth.
Yeah, it hopefully helps you engage with these wines on another level, whether you're recommending them or enjoying them yourself.
It enriches the whole experience, I think.
So here's a final thought to maybe mull over. With LVMH's resources and their stated focus on sustainability, how much could their actions actually push the entire global wine industry towards more responsible practices? Could they really lead that charge? Something to think about.